All right, all right, all right. We are live. We are live. We are live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I think that yeah, that looks like that's live. I think my buddy Randy is doing a live stream right now. And so I may need to wait just a little bit until we really dive into today's topic. We can always start with just like questions and stuff like that, but anyways, Wednesday live stream. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. Really unfortunate. Back in the live stream. Good to see you, man. What have you guys been listening to this week? What's new in your hi fi world? Anything cool? Anything exciting? This Friday, I'll be releasing a review, kind of a refresh review of the ModRite PH 9.0, which I reviewed 6 years ago when I was preparing this video. I was like, I cannot believe that it's been 6 years. It kind of blew my mind. And Sunday's review will be covering the Outlaw RR2160 integrated amp. So that's going to be kind of fun. Yeah. Let's see here. Good morning, Ron. I discovered Q Sound, specifically the two Pink Floyd live recordings. What a trip. Yeah, it is a trip. It is a trip. No doubt about that, dude. Neil K is asking, Ron, what would you do? What would, am I drunk? What would do you recommend to block a sliding glass door for room acoustics? Heavy curtains? Yeah, it's tricky. Glass is definitely not our friend when it comes to acoustics. Depending on what you can get away with and what you can't get away with, I'm going to have to remember that, we're probably talking about like a practical living space. Like how much can you attach to that, to that sliding glass, before other folks in the house are going to be like, what are you doing? This is crazy. So, yeah, Neil, I think that in that particular example, unfortunately, I think that your only option is to do some kind of heavy curtains or something like that in front of the glass, and that'll help a little bit. Um, it's a room that only I use. Okay. Um, honestly, what I would do is I would probably treat it the same way that this is hard to do that I did my door. That's all no res sheets that are on my door. You might wanna consider doing that. I would plaster that entire thing if you don't care about light coming in, you don't mind, if it doesn't matter to you. You have other ways of getting light, at least on the sliding part, on the sliding part that you can treat, you might wanna just throw some no res, sheets on there, and then do a curtain as well, and that would definitely help a lot, for sure. I was shocked at the difference that those sheets made on the door, and I love this stuff. It's fantastic. So I that's probably what I would do, practically, to be honest with you. So yeah, yeah, yeah. For main listening position in living room with the TV, would a diffuser behind the TV help? Hmm. That's a good question. I think anything behind the TV is, of course, going to help. So the answer is yes, it's going to help. How effective that's going to be is hard to predict. It's hard to say because if you have a big, massive TV there, you still have a hard surface. That whatever is going to be hitting that hard surface, it's going to be bouncing around. So bass and lower frequencies will travel through the TV, so that's not going to be affected by it at all. Um, but I think that you could certainly do it, and it's certainly not going to hurt. So anything that gets past the TV would then bounce off that diffuser or absorption if you decide to do absorption back there. So, yeah, I think you could certainly do that. Yeah. From your experience, what tube preamp provides the most beautiful and full voices? Beautiful and full voices. Uh, I gotta say, I really I really enjoy the Galleon TS120 SE and Class A for that type of an experience. It's gorgeous, very beautiful vocals, especially in Class A. Class AB is a bit more dynamic and a bit more clean on the Galleon, but that one is phenomenal at rendering vocals and just giving that bold, beautiful vocal. That would be definitely a tube amp that I could easily recommend. Another one is going to be the Miller Audio Dynaco ST70, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite amps that I've spent time with. Unfortunately, mine's busted right now, and I got to get it to Brian to have him do some repairs on it because the tube sockets are kind of jacked up. But that is incredible, beautiful sounding tube amp. So those would be two recommendations that I would have. Google AX. I'm late. Was outside digging out of a snowstorm we got smothered in overnight here in the Twin Cities area, Minnesota. My goodness. My goodness. Yeah, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually lived in Minnesota for 7 years. I chased a girl. It was a dumb idea. I was in Newport, which is just outside of the Twin Cities. But fond memories. Lovely, lovely place for sure. Um, any chance you might try the Fritz Carbon 7 speakers? These are incredible speakers, 31 pounds each, amazing impedance graph, and he does no marketing or advertising. Sean reviewed Fritz speakers. You? Question mark. I haven't. I have heard of Fritz speakers, and I'd be happy to take a look at them. So I'll remember to reach out. I appreciate that. Really unfortunate says my IEM's broke. I've got Verum 2s coming in soon, so it's not all bad though. Yeah, the Verum 2s are legit. Man, those things sound phenomenal. Holy cow. True voice of reasoning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. All right, let me see how many we got in here. 55. Yeah, I think we're going to wait a little bit longer here before we start on today's topic. I've got some stuff I wanted to kind of talk about and get some feedback on, but essentially the live stream today is going to be kind of just a loose topic, something that I've been thinking about, for the past week. Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, but really thinking about it for the last week that um I think we need critical reviews and more critical reviews. I think that you guys I'm curious to see what you think. I would ask you the question, how do you feel about that as a concept that reviews should be a bit more critical? And I think that where this is coming from is, you know, even myself included, it's like we play the YouTube game of, you know, hyping the heck out of something and the thumbnail and I'm shocked at how this sounds, you do the dumb face and it's just so ridiculous playing this game of, trying to get the hits, trying to get the views. And I think that's great. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't try to get your videos seen. I think you should, but I also feel like, man, from the perspective of the viewer, if we're all just hyping the heck out of stuff and it's not critical, I know that for myself, I would have a hard time sifting through all these different reviews and go, what the, so this is all just sunshine and rainbows. It's like, this is the greatest thing ever. Is there anything critical that you have to say about this thing? Or why do all of these reviews all sound cookie cutter exactly the same? They're just saying the same dang thing. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. And I've got kind of some notes that I'll use to kind of keep myself on point. But um, that's what we're going to be discussing. So, yeah, we'll wait just a little bit longer. We got 59 in here. I'll probably get started on the topic once we have about 100 in here. I know that Randy's doing a live stream right now, so there's probably a good chunk of folks that would normally being here that are hanging out with him, and that's totally fine. He's fantastic. Um, let's take a look here. Galleon TS-120 is a tube killer in Class A in tropical environment. Be careful from West Indies. Now that's interesting. So I'm not in a tropical environment by any stretch. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, I've had now the TS-120 for a year and a half, 2 years, and I haven't had any issues, no reliability problems at all. It's actually been rock solid. So I'm sorry to hear that. That's no good. True Voice of Reason. Hey, peeps, don't forget to smash that like button. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Remember to hit the like button. It does certainly help out. Excuse me, helps out with the video as soon as it, hits the YouTube space and helps lift it up and get it in front of more folks. So I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Miguel is asking, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over Google AX. If a review isn't critical, accurate, and honest, then isn't it essentially marketing? Yeah, that's actually one of the points that I'll be discussing today. I'll be talking about that. You're exactly right. And I will tell you, it's been interesting, doing this for a long time. I think that a lot of manufacturers have it twisted. I think that they have it in their head or in their mind that we're their marketing team, and that drives me crazy, and I think that we need to change that mentality. It's like, "No, we're not. We're not your marketing team. You have your own marketing team that you pay for, and you can do ads on Facebook and this and that. That's not what the review is." And I'm trying to pull away from that as much as possible and distance myself as much as possible from that in my reviews. And I would hope that we see more of that, that it's less about what feels like an advertisement or, basically just a marketing campaign, and more of a critical, thorough review talking about pros and cons. So it'll be cool to kind of unpack this and share my thoughts and see what you guys all think. Yeah. Let's take a look here. Thoughts on AMA T1 Pro 2 preamp? Miguel, I've never heard that, to be honest with you. You might want to reach out to Randy, Cheap Audio Man. He's probably spent some time with it, but I haven't heard that preamp, so I don't know. Let's take a look here. Peter W says it would be interesting to see if you review Tech Time speakers. Tech Time speakers. They don't seem to like critical reviews. I don't know what Tech Time is. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Peter. Um, Thomas is saying YouTube reviews must be professional, critical, and need comparisons, benchmark, et cetera, et cetera. I completely agree with you. And, I'm being real here that it does come with some challenges, and it does come with some consequences for me and my colleagues. Uh, a lot of manufacturers take the time to passionately build something that they think it's a jet fighter. This is a good analogy. And they give you this jet fighter, and you're a pilot. You get to fly this thing, and you hop into this what's supposed to be a jet fighter, and you fly it around. You're like, land it, and you go back to them. And you're like, hey, it flies. It's not a jet fighter. It's more of a glider. It's like, and they don't love that because they think they made a jet fighter, and you flew a glider. And so there's some consequences and some problems and some challenges. So, yeah. Sound clips with a well-known reference really help, especially if the reference is very well documented, full set of measurements. I really like that you provide sound clips when possible. Yeah, I appreciate that. I worked really hard on the sound clips, and I agree. I think that there's a lot of challenges to sound clips, and there's folks out there that will just say they're completely worthless. I don't agree. I think that they can be useful if done well. And as you noted, as long as you're playing like this is the reference clip, unaltered. If you literally played this on headphones, on speakers, or whatever, this is exactly what it sounds like. And here's the recorded speaker using my techniques. any kind of a deviation there is going to tell you some tone differences. You're gonna be able to clearly hear like, okay, there's a deviation from what is perfect to what is now not so perfect. And those deviations, depending on how much, say, how big of a difference or deviation it is, it can very easily help you understand the overall tone and balance of the speaker. You're like, okay, like this is lacking this or that, or wow, this is emphasizing this or that. And I think that sound clips combined with an assessment, a subjective analysis, combined with measurements, is kind of giving hopefully you guys the whole pie. It's like not just a piece, here's the whole pie, like everything that I can give to you. So, yeah, for sure. Peter W. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I think I skipped one here. Dave B. Reviewing audio components is a very tricky business because high end audio is very tricky business. There are three fundamental obstacles. Yeah, there's a lot of obstacles, for sure. There's no doubt about it, and we'll kind of get into this here pretty soon. And I'll share my thoughts after doing this for a long time. What I think. Peter W. I'm assuming that you won't be reviewing Tecton speakers. They don't like critical reviews. Laugh out loud. Now it makes sense what you meant. No, I will never review a Tecton speaker ever again. Um, Now that's not to say, and I've hinted at this, and I need to be very careful about how I speak about this. I made a lot of mistakes, with that particular review, many mistakes, and I'm still paying for those mistakes. um there's always, internet doesn't forget, and that's okay. For me, I think that it was a moment in time where I can, reflect, learn from, and course correct. And it's like, okay, well, guess what's never going to happen again, ever? That will never happen again. So yeah, totally agree. And no, I don't think they like critical reviews. It's been my experience based on what I've seen. uh, Not a big fan of critical reviews in any capacity. So, let's take a look here. Um, I can think of at least four hi-fi YouTubers that haven't had prior, and some would say current jobs as salesmen. That had prior, and some would say current jobs as salesmen. Yeah, yeah, that I would believe that. I would believe that. Unless most Geo is saying, unless most reviewers could at least double their video output, I personally would prefer them to only review stuff worth getting. There's just too much stuff out there in need for review. Yeah, I hear you there. There's a lot of stuff out there, and so, man, my nose is so itchy today. It's driving me crazy. Um, yeah, you're right, and it just goes to show that I think that having critical reviews, or reviewers that are a bit more critical, will help you guys just sift through the sea of stuff. There's just so much stuff out there. True voice of reason. Thing is, most people are on some form of social media. So, any way to get a product out there in front of eyes, especially with low cost, is a good thing for them. That is true. That's definitely the truth. Dave is going to break down the obstacles. Obstacle one, it is difficult to describe audio performance. Two, it also depends on how well the reviewer is calibrated. How does one know what is great until you have heard it? Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think I'm trekking with you, Dave. So far, you're hitting it out of the park. I agree with you. And it is difficult. I think that there's some folks out there that have, made comments even on my channel, and I've seen it on a lot of different channels, that you're not qualified. You're not qualified to be a YouTube reviewer. And I've thought about this a lot. And I think that if you have the ability to listen to something, understand what you're hearing, and communicate it well, um, then get yourself a camera, and you've made it. Past that. So notice I didn't say, and you have to know measurements, and you have to do sound clips, and you have to do these things. I don't feel that way. And I'm perfectly fine with even just subjective only reviews out there. I think that if that person has the ability to communicate what they heard and what they noticed about a product, this is just my opinion, and feel free if you disagree with me, but I think that's great. Get yourself a camera and talk about it. That's the only requirements that Ron from New Record Day thinks there needs to be a reviewer. You don't need to do anything else. I think that learning some of these things are tools, right? That can help you fine tune and get even better. But I don't think that you have to do those things in order to be a reviewer. I don't. I don't feel that way at all. I think it's hogwash. I think it's very high horsey and silly, in my opinion. All right, here we go. Always pushing. I find when my wife is not talking, my sound system sounds perfect. Just a bit of humor. Hope you all are having a good day. My friend, we are having a great day. Now, if your wife finds out about this, you're not going to be having a good day, sir. Oh, it's hilarious, man. So funny. Holy cow. Uh, Isolating the performance of one component from the rest of the system and room is nearly impossible. Bonus audio memory tends to be faulty. That's true. I love sound clips. Really unfortunate. I do too. Yep. Sean at Zero Fidelity had a fantastic review of the Bucart P300. He pointed out some flaws, but was transparent with Moz and highlighted why it sounds like that and who it is for. It's very well done. That's a great example. So I haven't checked out that video, but good for Sean, man. I think that that's what we need is, had he made the decision just to ignore that, save face or, just, I just want to be nice, it's not worth getting into. I don't need the negativity or anything like that or the pushback from the manufacturer. I think that we need more of that. And so I'll have to check out the video and I applaud him for bringing up some critical stuff because, it's our job to listen to something, describe how it sounds across the board, everything, and give that back to you. And then you guys decide whether or not that's the sound that you like. Of course, we should share whether we enjoyed it. I mean, that's part of the reason that you guys watch us is did Ron like this speaker? Yes or no? Yeah, I did. Or no, I didn't. But here's the reasons why. And so that's great. I don't want critical reviews, just more realistic ones. For 25 years, reviews keep saying it's night and day better. They sounded amazing and lifelike in the 90s. Yeah, I hear you. I guess that realistic would go in. If I understand what you're saying, it would go more in the direction of let's chill out on the hype and all the flowery words. Let's just be real about things. I agree, and I've certainly been guilty more times than I can count about getting a bit more flowery in my words and descriptions. But um, it's a journey, and it takes time to fine tune that and get it to where it's a well oiled machine. Yeah, GR Research, Boocart, CSS Direct, sell to customers model bring competitive prices, whole industry. Do you agree? Yes, I do agree with that for sure. Yep. Um, Jerome, if I'm saying that right. I like fun reviews with a lot of enthusiasm over critical ones, even it has to stay honest. I remember the one about the Magnapan point seven, one of my favorites. Yeah, and that was a blast. Back in the day, I would kind of script out more of like a story, with the review, and that was great. And I've been thinking about bringing some of that back into the review format, but I would say I was a bit of a greenhorn even back then, and it was more about just celebrating the product, which I should be doing. When there's something we're celebrating, but to say that that was a perfect review. I would disagree. I think that it was fun, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I enjoyed making it. But I think that somebody watching that is honestly thinking about buying those speakers, I think that maybe they would have perhaps liked to hear, this is all good, but there are some things that maybe you ought to know as well, you know? And I kind of did that because I talked about tubes and, underpowering Maggies, which is like a thing. I'm going to rip off my nose today. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this thing bleed. It's driving me crazy. It's so itchy. And I don't know why. Um, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I do want, all of my videos to be entertaining. No doubt about that. Oh, hey, we got a super chat. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that. Have a nice cup of tea while listening. Thank you so much. Very kind. When will Danny's room be ready? I don't know. I haven't talked to Danny in like a week and a half. He's been really busy, probably buried under orders and acoustic treatment that he's been selling. I'll have to chat with that guy and see what he's got going on. Hopefully he's doing well. Google AX, 100% regarding your approach to sound clips. I regularly hear the differences in sound clips in your reviews and posts. Thank you for continuing to move forward. Move the bar forward in this area, Ron. We see you, bro. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. And I've got some, I've got some new stuff that I'm going to be working on here really soon. I think that I might have actually cracked the code, or I've at least narrowed the gap of, I think I might be able to get you guys closer to in the room. Like, oh, this is what it sounds like in the room. I'm getting closer to it. It still won't be like everything in the room, but I stumbled onto a little thing experimenting. I've been doing a deep dive into sound clips, and I thought of some techniques and some ideas, and I'm like, ooh, this might change everything. So, more on that when it's done. I'm still polishing the old wheels on that, getting them nice and shiny before I show them to you. All right. We've got 97 folks in here today. So this is a bit more of a good place to kind of start with today's topic. Let me just see if there's any other standout questions before we get started on today's topic. Will I review the new Bucart E50? Yes, I will. And compare it with GR Research speakers? Yes, I will. I don't know when I'm going to get the E50s, but yes, I am definitely going to do that. Let's see here. A critical reviewer comes across as more trustworthy and true to life. Perhaps we need a Simon Cowell in audio reviews. Might be fun, though I am sure you will be aiming for a healthy balance. Yep. I think balance is the key. All right, let's get started. So I've had this on my mind for a while. And over the last few days, I've been really thinking about it nonstop, like laying in bed, looking at the ceiling. And Sarah's like, oh gosh, what is this guy thinking about? And it's like, just audio stuff, not another chick, just audio stuff. And I've been thinking about, I think we need, and this includes myself, I think we need to be more critical in our reviews. And that's not to be confused with negative. Some folks will say we need negative reviews. And depending on the context and depending on what your definition is of a negative review, I might or might not agree with you. So let's just kind of highlight, a critical review, I would say, is just an honest, balanced assessment that, of course, highlights both strengths and weaknesses of a product, whether it's a speaker or an amplifier or whatever it is, Um, this week, I'll be reviewing the Outlaw integrated amplifier, the RR2160, I think is the model. And it's a fine amp. It's $1,000, and there's not a whole lot to complain about it. But I will tell you that when we get to that review, there is going to be some critical thoughts about how they implemented the high pass. I don't like how they did it, and I think that it was strange. It was a strange way of implementing a high pass. And I've got some things to say about it that will maybe be helpful. So that will be a review that you can watch where I'm going to try my best to be fair, celebrate what needs to be celebrated, but at the same time say, I don't understand why you did it this way. And it seems odd. So that's an example. Now, On the flip side, a flat out negative review, right? On the other hand, and we can continue with this 2160 as an example, is because I didn't like this one particular feature in it, I could have let that get in the way of the review. And then it could have been, driven by frustration or, my personal bias or, just a bad experience. And it would only focus on the flaws, right? So there's no constructive insights, about the product at all. So that kind of opens up my feelings about the difference between critical and negative. Critical is, hey, there's some good stuff about this, and then there's some not so good stuff about this. And so that is that's my thoughts on the difference between, like a critical review and a negative review. I don't think we need negative reviews. I think we just need, you know, pros and cons to the product. And so this does beg the question. And since I kind of already talked about it, give me a second. I thought I was going to burp. All right. What about a lot of my colleagues out there that only do subjective reviews? So there's nothing objective about what it is that they heard. And so I think that it's fair to say this will be a little bit more challenging for them, not for the viewers. Not for the viewers will still like, hey, man, like we'll use Randy as an example. Randy doesn't really bring out measurements or anything like that, but let's just say that he talks about some amplifier and he brings up, something critical about it. I think that his viewers will really appreciate it because they'll be like, dang, man, like he's helping me figure out which of these, cheap little amps or speakers that I ought to you know, give it a go. Manufacturers, on the other hand, don't like it. They never do. They don't like they don't love hearing anything that's going to be critical. And behind the scenes, depending on, how a reviewer deals with manufacturers, and usually I close the doors on them completely. I go to the extreme these days of like, I don't want to talk to you at all. Don't check in with me. Don't ask how it's going. Nothing like that. If I have questions, I'll ask you. But I think as soon as you drop that video and you have something critical to say from a subjective standpoint, and you say it and you even communicate it well, the manufacturer may certainly challenge you. Like, you said that speaker is bright. Prove it. They might get upset. They might get frustrated. And so there are some challenges, that my colleagues might run into that are doing a subjective only analysis. And that manufacturer might take their ball and go home and not want to work with, that reviewer anymore. But I still think you should. And here's why. If you do it and you have a subjective only analysis of that product and you stake the claim of, this speaker sounds bright, I don't like the top end, it's shouty, it's forward, and you get that out there and the manufacturer gets mad and they take their ball and they go home. Here's what they're probably going to do is they're going to try to get a second opinion and they're going to take it to another reviewer. And let's just say that reviewer is subjective only as well, but they end up saying the same thing. Now they catch on to something that you were critical about and they're also critical about. Well, now the manufacturer is in a bit of a quagmire. It's like, oh crap, maybe that first reviewer that we didn't like their opinion about, well, the second reviewer is now saying the exact same thing. Well, at that point, it probably is what it is, but let's just take it a step further. Let's say the manufacturer is like, well, forget both of these bozos. I'm going to send this to Aaron. And he's going to prove it with his fancy pants clipple. And then Aaron, who does actually listen to his speakers, he does a subjective analysis on everything that he listens to. And he's like, holy cow, this is forward. I'm going to get this on the bench and I'm going to figure out exactly what the heck's going on. And then he's able to prove it. Like there is something going on here. This is why we're hearing it this way. Well, then it's a slam dunk. And now, you guys know beyond a shadow of a doubt there's something definitely going on with this particular speaker. And in my opinion, this is desperately needed in this industry. And I think that it's needed more than ever because I'm going to get myself in trouble for saying this. And I don't care. I don't care at all. Like, let it, whatever happen, whatever consequences that come my way, I'm willing to deal with it. All of us that are trying to be honest on YouTube and trying to move this industry forward, we have been set up for failure for a mess that the magazines have created for us. That's the truth. We have been handed a mess, and it is all built around pay to play. And it's all built around, you know, if you want me to review your product, then you need to pay for this advertisement in my, magazine, and you need to, you know, pay for, this ad spot, and you'll like what we have to say about your product. And that is, I'm not saying that it's this way for every magazine, for every article, but I will tell you, and I've seen it enough to know this is what we've been handed. And so I fully understand frustration from our viewers, people that are trying to sift through the BS and the nonsense. They're like, "Man, we just wanna hear the truth." It's like, "Quit telling us, we're not idiots. Quit telling us that everything is unicorn, sunshine, and rainbows. We know that there's more to it than that." So, I'm gonna get myself in trouble for that, but it is it is true, and it is frustrating, and I see the resistance of a lot of the magazines with YouTube reviewers and the egos and the attitudes, and it's a shame. And it's like, you know what? You really set us up to fail with this game that you've been playing for far too long. And it's time for a change. And a lot of these listeners and a lot of these viewers that have, believed everything that they've read in these magazines over the years, they're sick and tired of it. It's like, yeah, no, class A this and this award and this, whatever. It's like, can we just get some honesty here? So I've broken this down into, you know, 5 bullet points, and I kind of want to hear your guys' feedback as we trek through this. But number one, we need to cut through the marketing hype. And I think that a critical review does that. As we've already kind of talked about so far, I think that hi-fi brands, they're going to rely on, flashy marketing, and, they want to cut a piece out of the YouTube video that is saying some great things. I recently did a very much glowing review of the Manly Labs Oasis. Now, everything that I said in that review is true. That was the title, everything that I had to say about it. It is one of the best pieces that I've ever reviewed, and Ivana Manley should take clips out of that and market it. She should, and Manly Labs would be wise to do that. And that review stands up as overly enthusiastic for a reason, because I didn't find any flaws. I didn't find anything in there to be critical about. And if I did, I would. I would say, "Hey, this was lacking in this department." But I think that if we're critical in our reviews, it helps us pull away from this notion of marketing hype, that it's just all marketing, that it's all an advertisement. And I think that what that will do is it will help balance reviews like the Manly Labs Oasis. As Ron said, this is actually a unicorn. It's actually very, very good. And we're going to believe him because last week's review, he wasn't talking that way about said product, whatever it is, right? That it might be lacking in one way or another. So, I this was brought up in the live stream earlier that, you know, manufacturers kind of treat us like we're their marketing team and we're not. When we post something that is enthusiastic, by all means, you market whatever we had to say in the review for good reason. Um, and if there was something that I was going to say that was going to be critical in there, I would hope that Manly Labs would have taken it seriously. Like, okay, he said a lot of really great things, but he also had this critical thing. Maybe we should take a look at that and not be offended, not freak out, but like, let's accept it and go to work on it. And that leads to my number 2 bullet point is that I think that if we are critical, I think that it leads to better engineering. And I will tell you that this has actually happened already because of some reviews that I've done. There was a speaker that I reviewed that was just not so good, and I was very critical about it. And that speaker is since then, I haven't reviewed it again, but it's actually been fixed. That the problems that I actually mentioned in this video, and it took some time, and there was a lot of frustration with my review on this particular product, but the manufacturer actually fixed the problem. They actually went back and they did the right thing, and now that product is actually better. And so I think that if we only offer praise, manufacturers really have no incentive or reason to improve their designs, right? It's like, well, Randy said it's great. Ron said it's great. Aaron said it's great. Amir said it's great. You know, it's like all of these companies are just saying this is just the greatest thing ever. If nobody is being critical, then it's just there only needs to be one review. It's like just cookie cutter stamps of the same dang thing. And I want to get past that. I want there to be diversity and I want there to be different opinions. And I think that the only way that that's going to happen is if we do a good job of celebrating what's great and also at the same time being critical. Um, the third thing, which is kind of a no-brainer, is, you know, I want to I want to protect your investment. Now, my channel is kind of scattered in that I can cover the high end stuff and I can cover, the cheap stuff. But let's get real, like a lot of the stuff that I do cover, it's not cheap. I mean, the Oasis is 4 grand for a phono preamp, and there was some valid concerns in there about like, dude, Ron, like there's phono preamps that are, a couple $100, or $1,000 that sound great. And that might be true. So, for me, it's like for the most part, a lot of the stuff that I'm reviewing can be expensive. And I think that you guys deserve to know whether a product is, truly worth the price. So a critical review, I think, will help identify, when something is overpriced, or underperforming. And I think that that will help prevent you guys from wasting your money on, hype driven gear, and reviews. It's just all about hype. And so, a good example of this, and I think I talked about this in a live stream before, is, you know, the, uh, the Daniel Hertz gear that I reviewed. It was fine, and those speakers did some amazing things. Like they were very dynamic, and they woke up the sound shed in a marvelous way. But that doesn't mean that they're freaking perfect, and they're also incredibly expensive. And so, the conundrum with those speakers, and especially the amplifier, is I don't want you guys buying either of those pieces, um, unless it's absolutely worth it. I don't want you to spend $160,000 on something unless it's like hits every single check mark and it is perfect. And as I mentioned in that video, in that review, and you can watch it, I don't think those products are perfect. I think that there's some things that you would need to know from a critical standpoint, especially the amplifier, where it's like, dude, no, 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 no. There's, I think, better gear out there that will cost less than that you would be better off with. So that's that. I also feel like, and this is kind of the fourth point, is we need to raise the bar for review standards just in general. And I know that I have been guilty of this a time or two. Um, but too many reviews are just, I don't know, it's like a thinly veiled advertisement. It's like GR Ron search. Somebody said that in the live stream, and it's so fair. It's like anything that Ron is going to say about, GR research is going to be just over the moon, and he's just a shill. And it's like, yeah, fair, fair. And I need to do a better job of, just being more direct about some of Danny's designs that I don't like as much as others. A lot of people have asked about like some of the NX stuff that Danny offers, like the NX Bravo, and how that compares to an Encore. Well, I like the Encore more, and I think I just need to say that. Like, I'm an Encore guy and it's cheaper and, you know, and kind of be more realistic. And I'm going to do a better job of just raising the bar of like holding myself accountable, of like celebrating when I should, and then simmering down when I should as well. Um, and I think that we all can do a better job of that. So, um, number 5, and this is the big one. I think that being critical will create more context and a reason to celebrate our individual channels. And what I mean by that is, you know, not every viewer is going to vibe, with my style. I mean, you guys might all like the way that I do things, but that doesn't mean that everybody does, right? And so, some folks are going to prefer Andrew Robinson and they're going to like, his approach. And they others might like Steve, the audiophiliac, and like his approach. And I think that that is a good thing, for sure. And I think that we need more perspectives, on all of this gear, and that's fantastic. And I think that if we all were a bit more critical, then you guys as our viewers will be able to quickly sift through like why you go to Ron's channel versus why you would go to Andrew's channel versus why you would go to Steve's channel. And I think that it will help folks understand why, some reviewers like a particular speaker more than another. And a lot of you folks, as that are on my channel that are already a fan of, kind of what I'm going for is I like speakers that disappear, and I like soundstage, and I like pulling speakers 275 feet into the room to get them to disappear. And so, not everybody does that. And, for good reason. And so a critical review from a guy like, my buddy Randy might be, corner placement or up against the wall. But feel free to be critical, Randy. It's like feel free to say, "Hey," and I'm just using Randy as an example. I'm saying that he's not critical. I'm just saying like, "Man, the bass is booming against the wall." I would love to hear that, and I think that you guys would love to hear that, because if I get that exact same speaker and I pull it 9 feet into the room, and you have the opportunity to pull that speaker 9 feet into the room, and I say it's not booming 9 feet into the room, well, now we have context to the channel, and it will help you guys understand like where a speaker might not work versus where a speaker is going to work. And so those are the 5 things that I kind of wanted to kind of highlight, and I want to turn the time over to you guys and start answering some questions, and I want to kind of, catch up with some of the things that y'all are saying. But that's what I wanted to discuss today is I think it is high time, for all of my colleagues, YouTube reviewers, to feel free to be a bit more critical about stuff. And, hopefully this was something that resonates with you guys is our viewers. Like, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think that it should all be sunshine and rainbows in every review that we should do? Let me set it up. like that. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. And I know that, I've been talking to Aaron about it from Aaron's Audio Corner. I think that, Aaron and I can promise you we won't agree on a lot of stuff, but every conversation that I've had with Aaron is so meaningful because he doesn't take things so dang seriously that we can't like laugh about silly things like cables and cable lifters and whether an amp sounds different from another amp and this and that. Like we can have an honest conversation. I think that our goals are very much aligned, that we want reviews to be more balanced and more critical. And I hope, I really do hope that a lot of my other colleagues follow suit, because I think that it will help push this industry forward in a very positive way. And it's our community. We can keep doing this the same way it's always been done, and do the pay to play game and keep giving awards out, and here's an award and here's an award, and oh, this is just the greatest thing ever and you should just buy it. And we could do that. I don't think we should. I think we should slow down and really sift through all of these products and say, now this is a unicorn on Ron's channel for what he's going for. And by all means, a guy like Andrew Robinson can say, this is a unicorn on my channel for these reasons. And as long as we're all being a bit more thorough and like bringing up, the pros and the cons, and I'm not saying that that's not happening across the board. I'm not trying to make that claim as a blanket statement, but I am saying that I feel as if all of us, myself included, can do a better job of being more critical. And I think that you guys want that. I think you want it. I think you want that. I think you do. All right. That is my soapbox. Let me now scroll all the way up here and see what we got here. Let's see here. Okay, this is kind of where we were before. What I need in my life are more reviews of GR research speakers from like other reviewers. Kind of drives me nuts. I agree with you. And I will say I'm Danny is a friend, a genuine friend of mine, and I love the guy to death. Danny is a green olive, right? So we talk about black olives. There's a lot of people that don't like black olives, but by you know, more people like black olives than people that like green olives. Some people are like, green olives, no thank you. Danny is a green olive. He's not a black olive. He's a green olive. And he does come across a certain way. And folks that see the way that he talks about things on camera might take it a certain way that leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And I'm not here to convince you otherwise. You can make up your own mind on Danny. But I will tell you this, and this, if Danny is hearing this, this is from my heart. I think that he needs to. I think he needs to do a better job of letting go of the perfect ideal environment for his speakers to shine. I think he needs to let it go. I do. I think that, it's great if, the reviewer has a perfect listening, room for his product. That's great. I do. So any products that I review from GR Research, this is again going back to what I was just saying. The context could be on Ron's channel. This is what Danny's speaker sounds like in a perfect environment. But what about in Sean's, listening space? I think he's, got basically a bedroom, and this isn't a knock on Sean's room. I'm not saying this. I'm saying that's his environment. Well, why don't we hear his take? Or, Aaron, who is, I know has had rooms that are treated before. His current environment is not treated, you know? And it's difficult to treat. And we've talked about this, and I've made fun of him, you know? And I'm like, "Dude, Triple Eight's a couple feet from the wall. Are you crazy, Aaron?" My point is this. I do wish from my heart, to you, Danny, you should l- lighten up with that. It's like, just get speakers out to other reviewers. And if they don't hear everything that you wanted them to hear in your speaker, it's okay. It's okay. And the reason why it's okay is because not every room is perfect. you know, most of you guys don't even have a listening room, but you want to hear what research speakers sound in a more practical room or speakers up against a wall and this and that. And I, I think we need that. I think Danny would be doing himself a disservice if he continues to, strong arm of like, it's got to go to the perfect room. I don't think that it does. And I think that uh, getting those speakers in practical rooms, Randy, Andrew, whatever, I think that it would be great. And I think at that point, anything critical that they have to say could be simply better context of that speaker in that particular spot in that room. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Dan says, I wish when bringing new products to shows, we don't have to wait 7 months until they are available. Example is the Onkyo new Icon series. Hope you get them to review. I agree with that, man. And that stuff does look really cool. A critical reviewer comes across as more trustworthy and true to life. Perhaps we need, the Simon Cowell. This is earlier. I should be, I think I screwed up here. Sorry, guys. Hold on. All right. I think this is new. I'd love a recommendation for a cheap tube amp or product to experience the tube sound for the first time. Anyone have a suggestion? Rob H, what do you consider cheap? I think that would help us, with your question there. I'd love a recommendation for a cheap tube amp. Oh, I just read that. Let's see here. I'm using the Heagle H90 with KEF R3 speakers. What would a good speaker upgrade be for me? I love the highs and mid range of the KEF. Huh. Huh, huh, huh. That's a good question, man. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. I'm kind of not in like that mode. What would be an upgrade to the R3s? You like the highs of the R3s. I kind of thought those speakers were just okay. And I'm glad that you like them. I wasn't blown away by the top end of the R3s. I kind of felt like it was just kind of like, it's just okay. So I don't know exactly what you feel like they're lacking. Maybe if you tell me what you think the H390s are lacking, then I might be able to help you a little bit better. Jason says the critical stuff that can be very helpful for viewers that may totally piss off the company is simply identifying who would benefit from purchasing and who would steer away. That's exactly right. And I think that I would say this for my colleagues that might catch this video, and I hope that they watch this. Um, here's how you can be critical and not piss off the manufacturer. Offer it up as a question. I've learned this, and I've used this technique more times than I can count, is, hey, throughout this review process with X speaker, I noticed that something in the upper mid range seemed to be a little bit more forward sounding. It's as if I am placed in the front row, and it can be a little bit bright sounding. So my question for the manufacturer, and this is an honest question to them, and I would invite them to follow up in the YouTube comments. Was this the sound that you're going for? Like, are you going for a more exciting and forward front row experience? Because that's how I'm hearing it. That is a great way to disarm the manufacturer completely. It's like, hey, now you have the power. Now you get to join us in the conversation and say yes or no. Like, No, that's not at all how we voiced it. And I think this guy's wrong. But you've given them an opportunity to speak. And by just positioning it as a question, that's, I will tell you, that is the best way out of a sticky situation with the manufacturer, because you're creating an arena for dialogue. You're creating a space of like, we can talk. It's okay. Like it's okay for you to disagree. Um, I want to see Danny review some Perlison. Well, Danny's not a reviewer. So what that would take is if somebody got Perlisons and they don't like them, they would send them to Danny, and then Danny would post a video about what he would do different, to the Perlisons. But he's not really a reviewer. John Adams. Many of the reviewers do not or barely have any acoustic treatments. That alone is an often overlooked critical item. You, Jay, and Steve has a few tiles on the wall, but nothing like your room. Yeah, that's true. And that's okay. So I don't mind so much, and I'm not going to take back what I said earlier about what I think is a requirement for doing this. It's a very low requirement. You just got to be able to listen and communicate what you hear. I think that acoustic treatment, room acoustics, measurements, sound clips, they're tools. They're just tools that, I'm speaking for me, I think it helps me do a better job of communicating what I hear. Um, I will tell you that this room, compared to any room that I've had prior to this, my job was a lot harder in those other environments. And I didn't realize how difficult it was to hear past the room until I've been in this room. It's not, this room is still imparting a flavor. Every room does, but it is very easy to put up two pairs of speakers and very quickly identify that's what's going on with this speaker. It's most people, most folks would be able to sit down and hear it. No problem. D1NO2 dropped out of Randy's stream to join here. Heck yeah, Randy Schmandy. Forget Randy. What is he rambling about over there? What is he rambling about? Matthew says Aaron has done a few negative reviews, and I think he did them fairly well. I also like how Aaron tells you exactly what type of speaker he prefers, so the audience has a frame of reference. That's exactly right. And this is something that I also admire about Aaron. And this might be like where I should do a live stream with Aaron, because I think this would be like a key difference between us, like what sound he's going for and what he likes versus what I tend to like. Um, I think I can say this. I think I'm able to say this. I hope I'm not overstepping, but I think Aaron's going to be reviewing some stuff from GR Research pretty soon, which is exciting. And the particular speakers that he's getting, it's going to be very interesting knowing what I think Aaron likes, what he thinks about these particular speakers that he's going to be reviewing. So, and the only reason I know this, it's not like, I'm a part of the reviewer list that goes to GR Research. No, I don't know what Danny is doing over there or who he's sending products to. It's because Aaron and I have been talking, and he mentioned this, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. This is exciting. It's going to be neat to hear your take on a GR Research speaker. But you're exactly right. I think that the context of the channel shines when we tell you what we're listening for and what we like. As an example, I know that Steve is a big horn guy, and also, Michael, the Greek audio horn guy. And I think something's wrong with their ears. But that's great, because now it's like, hey, if you're a horn guy and you like that kind of front row, vibrant presence, firecracker type, explosive type thing, then we can point you in the right direction. And all the context of why they like any speaker or don't like any speaker is going to be based on that critical assessment that that's the sound that they're chasing. And so this is good. This is good for the industry. Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Let's take a look here. We need to know sound characters so we know if something can make match in our system, especially important. The more revealing your system gets, the more sensitive it is to changes. That is true. I agree. Do you think that if you make a slightly critical review, then some manufacturers might cut you out when new gear comes along? I have seen this happen to a YouTuber in the UK. Yes, it will happen, and it has happened with me. Um, so you know that's a shame. I would hope that because this goes to show why I think we need critical reviews. If I give a critical review and that reviewer or that manufacturer cuts me off and they go to the next reviewer and the next reviewer and the next reviewer and it's all sunshine and rainbows, that for me is a negative loss. We all lose. Everybody loses in that situation. Uh, if my colleagues are critical and they hear what I hear or they notice what I hear without even watching my video and they say the same thing, now we're on to something because even if they cut me off, are they going to cut off the next one and the next one and the next one? Because at that point, they've really painted themselves in a corner. And I'm not going to talk about this company, but you all know what company that I'm talking about. There's only so many lawsuits that you can throw out there and act like a complete fool and like threaten litigation on people before you're going to run out of people that even want to touch your damn product and review your product. You're going to run out of people and you've painted yourself in a corner and you only have yourself to blame for that at that point. It's like, okay. So you're right, but I think that they they are shooting themselves in the foot by not responding in in a way that is dialogue driven. Like I've had some reviewers, where I post something that, you know, uh, Hegel, Hegel, Hegel. I always say it wrong. I get a lot of crap for that. What was it? The H120 that I reviewed. Man, Anders, when he watched that video and it was not sunshine and rainbows, it was such a great response. And I don't have it memorized, but it was essentially a reply to me saying, Ron, it's not like we invented bacon. That was the greatest, most disarming reply from a manufacturer I've ever gotten. I was like, we all win. You win, I win, everybody wins. It's like there's no reason to freak out. You're right. You didn't invent bacon. And this takes nothing away from the 380 that I love. The 380 was bad to the bone, but this one, no, not for me, you know? So yeah, totally. Randy just shills whatever product he comes across. Matt, I disagree. I've actually seen Randy be critical on a couple of different products, so I don't think that's true. Randy does certainly, and he has said this many times. Like he does play the YouTube game of that for the thumbnail and the title, and he's successful at it. And I think that's okay. Let's just talk about the meat, the substance, like what's in the video. And I disagree. I've watched a lot of videos of Randy over the years, and I don't think that it's true that he shills every single product. I don't think that's an accurate statement. Matthew says, would be nice for reviewers to list all the speakers they have heard and sort of rank them so we get a feel for what they like and their frame of reference. I think that that could be useful. It'd be, quite a bit of work to create such a list, but yeah, I could see that being useful. I think that, who was doing that? Joe. Joe from Joe and Tell had like a leaderboard list, and I don't know if he's still doing that, but I actually like that about his channel, that he would actually be in the hot seat of this speaker is ranked higher than this one. And I thought that was kind of a cool idea. I should steal it and then pretend that I came up with it. That's what I should do. Aaron's measurement method objective. He compares manufacturer's data with his, so manufacturer could not deny. That is true. Yeah. It's hard to, when it comes to the measurements and you can sync that up with what you had to say, the manufacturer doesn't have a whole lot that they can fall back on. They can challenge the measurement at that point, and that's fine. Yeah. The British audiophile isn't afraid to constructively criticize a product. I agree. Torin, he's one of the best out there. One of my favorites, all-time favorites, actually. He's great. He is great. Oh, this thing just jumped on me. Oh, no. All right, here we go. When it comes to speakers, we just need a two-part review. Ron will give us the best sound clips and comparisons and subjective opinion, then send it to Aaron for the rest. Yeah, that's fine. Aaron's measurements with the Clipple, they're going to be, more comprehensive than any of the measurements that I do with the Clio. I'd be fine with that. I feel like the Clio measurements and what I'm looking for is some of the more important stuff, but if you want to look at distortion and stuff like that, then great. And a Clipple is going to be able to give you a lot more and detailed information than what my measurements are going to show. So there's nothing wrong with that. I have given up on magazines in the last 6 months. I hear you. I'm giving up on them as well, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's unfortunate. YouTube must consider tech and reliability also. I agree. Yep, I agree. Let's take a look here. You and Randy streaming dueling live streams. Yeah, we picked the wrong day to do a live stream, I guess. We're both doing live streams on the same day. That's okay. That's okay. Cheap Audio Man, way too much reviews. His work ethic is polished. The other day I sent him a message. I was like, "You're a machine, man." It was just like video after video after video. I mean, the guy is cranking them out, man. Nothing wrong with that. The true voice of reason. I want sunshine and rainbows, but some need to be in black and white to keep it real. That's exactly it. That's exactly right. And I have no issue with hype. I have no issue with a very flowery review when it's earned, when it's deserved, when it's like that is a standout product. Because, if we're all just a bit more critical and like you said, keep it real, black and white, when those do pop up and like no BS, then it stands out, right? It's like, well, the hype is actually worthy in this situation. It's like I thought long and hard about that Manly Labs Oasis title. And it's like, man, I could say Manly Labs Oasis review and Manly Labs Oasis review, and knowing that it's a phono stage, and it's been a long time since I've been talking about vinyl, that video would have done under 10K the first day. It wouldn't have done well. And so I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak from my heart. I'm going to say this is one of the best pieces of gear that I've ever reviewed. And it got more views, and I'm glad that it did. And I'm sure that a lot of people jump ship as soon as they're like, it's a phono stage. I don't want to hear about a phono stage, Ron. But it is a beautiful piece of equipment. It's so good. I can't believe how good it is. It's ridiculously good, and it deserved it. So let's take a look here. It sometimes feels like a canary in a coal mine issue. Heard some reviewers say they won't do a review if they don't enjoy it. Understandable, but hard to know what those products are. Thank you for bringing this up. I really don't like that attitude. I really don't. I've heard it all. I've heard that exact thing. Like, well, I mean, I'm not going to waste my time with the product if I don't like it. It's like, man, you are doing all of these viewers a massive disservice by not posting that video. Like you should. That is such a good reason to get on there and be like, I don't love this for these reasons. You should. That's exactly what we need. We need more of that. And I'm not saying to be negative for the sake of being negative. Like, if there's one or two things in there that you do like, even if it's like, I like the way that it looks, and that's about it, at least you got that in there. And then be like, in terms of how it sounds, we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to ask some questions, to the manufacturer, and do your best to just give them the power back of being able to explain like what they were going for. But man, I agree I'm a bit triggered right now because it drives me crazy when I hear my colleagues say that. I'm like, I think you're making a mistake, and I think that you should course correct and like, no, you should post that video. You should say that. Yeah. All these reviews are fake. It's just promotional stuff like all this Chinese crepe. It's not real. No. No, it's not. It might feel that way to you, but I've got a whole stack of these cheap Chinese amps that I don't love, but that A5 that I reviewed, I actually like that amp. And no, it's not crap. So it's not fake, it's not promotional. That's not it. That's not true. So I disagree with you. It's not. Um, there's a lot of stuff out there that might not float your boat, and that's okay, but it doesn't mean that it's all fake and it's all promotional. That's just hogwash. Not true. What do you think of the Air Model 1 be used in home theater application? I think it would kill it in a home theater application. I think it would sound stunning in home theater for sure. Let's see here. It's about what type of reviews. Do you need all sunshine and roses or occasionally cloudy with thorns? Yeah, I think it can be both. I think it can and needs to be both. I like garlicky green olives with basil. I like green olives stuffed with jalapenos. Fantastic. Yeah. Let's see here. I am between the NX Studio monitors and the Arendal 1528s, leaning more towards the Arendal now, partially because it can do home theater and stereo, but mostly for my space. I can only pull out so far into the room. That's fantastic. Great. That's cool, man. Best thing with green olives is to blend them into a pulp more palatable. Okay. Make yourself a little shake, a little green olive shake. Why not? Do that. I watch Stephen Andrew, but I actually enjoy a good straight talk approach that touches on various points. Ron's review, spill the bucket, let it all out. I hear you, man. We gotta let it all out. Hey, whatever happened to the review of the Kaladins? I unlisted the review. So it's gone from a public review to unlisted. So you can still see the video on Clayton's website. I didn't pull it completely. But I did that for a couple of different reasons. And so I can unpack that quickly. Number one, the Kaladin has changed. So the network has changed, the baffle has changed. That speaker that I talked about is no longer the speaker that you're buying. And so I don't want to advertise or help market or promote a speaker that I haven't heard. And so it's changed. And so I would need to get my ears on the latest iteration of Kaladin and do that work all over again. And then that would replace that particular video if I decide to do that. And I am very much on the fence about it. There's a part of me that I don't know if I want to. And uh there's some negative feelings that I have about how all of this went down. Unfortunately, people are still waiting on those speakers, and I know that Clayton is working hard to catch up on those orders, and I hope that that continues to happen. And I would say me embarking on a Kaladin Part 2 review or re-reviewing Kaladin, I want to make sure that folks have their speakers. and that production of what people paid for is being completed before I tackle, another Kaladin project. I might change my mind, I might not, but that's the direction that I'm leaning is I don't know if I want to talk about Kaladin anymore until I know, hey, promises are being kept and people are getting their products. I want to make sure. So, Hoobs Groove says you shouldn't need acoustic treatment. You can design speakers to work without it. Some manufacturers do. Uh, you don't need acoustic treatment. Um, Speakers designed to work without acoustic treatment. If you're talking about like room correction software, I would say give me that speaker. I'll turn all that stuff off, the room correction stuff off in my room. And then you put them in any other room that you want. Turn all that stuff on and let's see which one sounds better. I think that you might change your mind about the benefits of acoustic treatment in a quick hurry. I think you would quickly go, oh, well, if you want to get the most out of this speaker, acoustic treatment would be the way to go. So that's my thoughts on that. It is not true that the room makes a huge difference to the speaker characteristic. Is it not true that the room makes a huge difference to the speaker characteristic and that a manufacturer might take that into consideration when designing their speaker? Yes, of course. The room makes the biggest difference by far. There's no doubt about that. And they should take that into consideration. Absolutely. People forget that sometimes what reviewer considers negative, speakers are bright, punchy, etc., is exactly why you like them. I love how Kefs scream at you. There you go. So that's totally true. And I think that a great reviewer is able to articulate those things and like talk about those things while setting their own bias to the side. Like describe what you're hearing so people know like, oh, front row experience, super exciting, kind of a forward sound with the electric guitars, sign me up. Or the next person is like, heck no, no. That's just that's how we can all be better at communicating how things sound so you guys are making a better decision. All right, couple more minutes and I got to get rolling here. I've got a day date with my bride. We're going to go out to lunch today. All right, let's see here. 95% of people are not going to put up acoustics up. Furniture can be used as acoustics. Who's going to measure the room and put acoustics first? The wife would object. Some folks would, some folks wouldn't. Hoobs, I don't try to talk for 95% of the people out there. And I'm sure that 95% of the people don't need you to talk for them. There's some people that will do acoustic treatment and some people that don't. And I think it's true that you do have to take into consider, the whole wife approval thing. Um, yeah. So that's that. New record day. What's your opinion on headroom when it comes to amplification? A requirement to have ample headroom. I find super high sensitivity speakers plus first watts in class a dream combo. I think you're right. And a lot of folks would say, let me go in a very different direction. You know, Dan from ModRite was talking about this new KWA 300 that he's working on. It's like 300. I'm sure it's going to be like 300 watts per channel. It's like, who needs that? You don't need that kind of power. That's absurd. Well, to the point that you're trying to make, there's a lot to be said about headroom. That if you don't have a ceiling up here, with the amplifier, and it can just provide effortless flow to the music, even if your speaker isn't necessarily hard to drive, it has been my experience that you're getting a lot more performance out of that particular speaker and that amp that it's just like, hey, I can just do this all day long. And so, yeah, I think that, headroom is a thing. I completely agree with you, man, for sure. All right, let's take a look here. Oh, I'm actually down to the bottom here. That's fantastic. And I'm going to be finishing up in about 5 minutes now. It's amazing how easy it is for people to judge what you do as a reviewer. It's amazing how easy it is for people to judge what you as a reviewer do for a living. I can only imagine how difficult it would be to hear what might be extremely subtle differences. And then, yeah, yeah, you know, it can be difficult. Some things are more difficult than others. I feel like I have the best job in the world, and it's obviously because I'm doing something that I love, but it's so much more than that. It's a lot more than that. Um, my kids, my kids always have dad around. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm with them all the time, and I can always take breaks, and I can always play with them and have fun. There will never be a day, I hope I hope that there's never a day where they have to say, "Where's dad?" It's like I want to be present, for those kids. And so I wake up in the morning, I have a cup of coffee, I spend time with the wife, and I get to scripting and, kind of writing out, the next review and thinking about how I want to tackle it and what I want to do and listening to, audio. It's the best job in the world. Is it difficult to describe how things sound? Yes, but it's also kind of a fun challenge and an exercise. It keeps me sharp. It's like, what is the difference between these two DACs? At first, you're like, nothing. This is all hogwash. They all sound the same. And then a week later, like, oh, they do sound different. And there it is. So it's a challenge, man. Yeah. All right. We know how advertising is. They postulate, uh, I can't say this word, postulate everything good about their products and none of the negative aspects. So we need to be critical. I agree. We do. I do. Do your kids listen to music? What? I think a lot of kids listen to their parents' music more and more now. I never listened to, yeah, Natalie, my youngest, my daughter, she always comes in and hangs out with dad, which is really cute. Way more interest than the other kids. She'll come in as I'm listening and she just starts dancing. So she seems to dig it. The other kids like Elliot and Georgia, they're playing Minecraft. They're like, I don't care about music. This is lame. So that may change. It might not. Who knows? Yeah. Have you and Danny tried the harp devices and other speakers? Result worthwhile pursuing, assuming public availability? Yes. In fact, the harp devices that we got, we could actually remove them, from the prototype and put them on any speaker, and it made a profound difference on a lot of different speakers, many different speakers. And that's not just my opinion, but people that have actually done some A/B comparisons here in the shed. They're like, "Whoa, holy cow, that thing actually does something." So yeah, it is legit. It is real. It is real. All right, guys. That is the live stream for today. Hopefully, this was, a worthwhile conversation. Rest of the week. So, Friday, Frequency Friday, we are dropping a refresh review of the ModRite PH 9.0. And then Sunday, we have a review of the Outlaw 2160. And I've got mixed feelings about that, mixed emotions. That's going to be a critical review. There's things to celebrate and some things that I think you ought to know. So that one will be good. Stay tuned for that. Thank you guys. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for joining us today, for watching my videos. I appreciate every single one of you guys for taking time out of your day to watch these videos and hang out with me. It means the world to me. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you guys in the next video.